Kathryn from Becoming You, and I'm reviewing an epilator today for the very first time. I was sent one from Beauty Bulletin, and this is the epilator. It's the Panasonic Wet Dry Epilator, and it's a 3-in-1, and it's called a foam epilation, and it can be used in the bath or the shower, or even in your bedroom without any water. So I've never used an epilator before, and like me, maybe you also aren't quite aware what it actually is. So an epilator is a form of hair removal. There's waxing and shaving and laser and all those types of things, even threading these days. So an epilator is slightly different in that it is an electronic device, and what it does, it's actually removing the hairs from the roots. And so you plug it in, charge it overnight, and then you would use it, and it's an electric form of hair removal from the roots, which means that it's actually a little bit longer lasting than some of the other ways of using hair removal, and it's also a little bit more affordable because it's a once-off item that you've bought once, and you don't ever have to buy razors or go for a wax at a salon. So what does it look like? This is what an epilator looks like. This is the one from Panasonic. It's a wet dry one, and it's got these tiny little tweezers almost on the head here, and what they do is as you pull this along against your skin, it would tweeze individual little hairs and pull them out. So that is what it looks like. This one doesn't have a cable, which is quite nice. It's cordless. Others come with a cable, so you'd have to be sitting right next to a plug point, and obviously you wouldn't be able to use those ones in a shower. So this is quite a nice multitasking one. In the same box, you get a little handy bag like this to keep in all your bits, a little brush to use to clean the head of the epilator, and it also comes with a head like this, which is actually a shaving head. So it comes with an electric razor head and then this attachment for shaving bikini areas. Okay, so as I've mentioned, there's a couple of positives. This is why you would use an epilator. It's a once-off payment, and that means that you don't have as many costs associated with hair removal. Another thing that you would use the epilator for above some of the other forms of hair removal is that it lasts a bit longer. So instead of shaving every 2 days, you could epilate maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on how fast your hair grows. Because it's removing the hair from the root, it takes longer to grow back. And so, yeah, so there's also a few negatives associated with an epilator. Some people find it very painful, like myself, but I'll talk about my experience just now. And also it can be, you need to plan ahead. You need to make sure that you're not going to be going out anywhere, because after using it, you'll probably have tiny little red bumps where every hair has been pulled out, a little bit like razor burn. So you need to plan ahead in terms of charging your epilator before the time, because nothing worse than running out of battery juice halfway through. And you also need to maybe have some pain relief before and after, something like a painkiller in the beginning and then maybe an ice pack afterwards to try and deaden the area and numb it a little bit. Okay, so my experience, I've just used this once or twice actually. The first time I used it dry and the second time I used it wet. Both times, if I'm honest, it was excruciatingly painful because I've never had this type of experience before. And I've been using it on my shins, my legs, which I think is quite a thin area of skin and quite close to the bone. So I think maybe it's the most painful area. Recently, I used it again on my thigh area, and there my experience was a little bit better, I must be honest. It wasn't as intensely painful. It was much more manageable pain. So yeah, also I did find it quite a time-consuming process. Obviously, you have to maybe sometimes go over the same area a few times to make sure you've got all of the hairs, and even then you won't get them all. But to get both your legs done properly with an epilator, you probably need to set aside between 40 minutes to 1 hour. Yeah, so when I used it, I found it to be quite painful, as I mentioned. Some people find that after using it for many years, they don't find it as painful anymore. And another benefit, obviously, after using it for many years is that your hair would be growing back much finer. You wouldn't need to use it as frequently, which means obviously less pain in the long run. So I'm going to show you what it actually does. I don't know if you can see this little head here. Basically, when you turn it on, it spins at quite a rate, and all those little tweezers move in and out, in and out, in and out like this, and they basically try and capture every little bit of hair as it goes past. So yeah, that's why it's feeling painful, because each little hair is being pulled out. So that pain that you feel when you're doing the eyebrows times a couple of hundred at the same time. It's a little bit noisy. Some people find that noisy. It doesn't really bother me. Yeah, so that is what it does. Now, for your benefit, I'm going to use it on part of my leg. Obviously, you can't see it because it's below the camera sun, but you can watch my face. This is on my thigh. So it's not too bad. It's a little bit like little pinches all the way along, as far as you go. And the results are great. The results are quite smooth afterwards. As I mentioned, you might not get every single hair every time, so you might have to go over an area again. But once you've done it, it's actually not too bad. And even if you miss 1 or 2 hairs, it's not that end of the world. It's not going to give you the same smooth finish that shaving would do, but it definitely does give you quite a smooth finish. So now I'm going to show you what it's like on my shins, because that is an interesting experience. So after that first experience, which was another level of sort of pain, even though I've had 2 natural births and I know what pain's about, this is another sort of level. I went onto social media just to get some tips from some other bloggers and social media people, like a good blogger would, and I found some tips, and they ranged from making sure that you've had a hot shower before you've done your epilating, having a painkiller before, potentially exfoliating beforehand, because you don't want to have any ingrown hairs afterwards. Another thing that people said was to put the music up really loudly, and the other one was to take a stiff drink. And that I do recommend if you're that way inclined, because goodness, it is rather sore. I've been told it improves over time and it's not always going to be that painful, and you get used to the pain and everything. So I'm going to push through and give it a try a few more times, and see how I go. I'm open to the possibility, and I do want to make sure that I'm giving the review its just deserves. Just desserts, I think it is, but I don't want to give up too quickly, and then I'm not giving it an accurate reflection. So I'm going to carry on using it for the next few weeks. Obviously, a huge benefit going into summer is that you don't need to use it as frequently. Once you've epilated, you've got a good 2-week window when you're not needing to shave or wax or epilate. So that's going to be a huge bonus for going into summer. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Epilator. I would be interested to hear if you've ever used one before, and please let me know in the comments below, or on my blog post as well, because it would be very helpful to get any other tips or insights into what the experience is like for you. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.